Thank you very much, everyone. Just to tell you all, we haven't got very long because we're going to an exhibition which will give us some fresh air. And we'll... And wine. Oh, and wine. Good goodness. That's early. Okay, that was really, really interesting. And I was particularly struck. I'll just start with a little observation and see if there's any response. Although, Claudia, you weren't talking about Julia making portraiture, there was a lot of reference to portraiture in all of those talks and about identity of women and sort of questioning identity of women through portraiture. And in fact, you used a lot of portraits of Julia to introduce her to us. So I'm kind of interested in the power of portraiture and self-portraiture to have that impact on the changing face of how women are identified and thought about. Is that played an important part in all of your works?
Yes, portraiture and self-portrait are the main dimension, not only for the Wool sister, but we can say for the women photographers, especially I think of the origin of photography, the end of the 19th century, at the beginning of the 20th century, but also because, in my opinion, every dimension connected with the personal, with the intimate, with the familiar, with the autobiography was historically seen as a secondary level, something domestic, so related with the female, with the other side, with not the tradition, not the principal investigation or role. And so this idea of portraying, continually portraying as a personal family album was so close with something near to family experiences. I'm not, if I'm clear, but the idea of staying and living inside the room, inside the home, with the familial relationships, made the portrait and the self-portrait so close to the female experience, but this is something interesting, not secondary, not alternative, but something for us which is main, which is the best goal. And Wool's, for Wool's sister, who had to work in a very professional way to live, because the father died and they became the leader, the owner of the studio, was experiencing this parallel dimension, the public sphere, the studio in Trieste, but this eternal attitude to describe themselves in order to describe them as modern women. And so this is.
I keep thinking of this because the collection of hand-painted portraits was the favorite collection of Julia, because I found very data of the exhibition of that collection. So what my grandmother used to tell me, and my mother too, that everyone in the town knows Julia. And I can say that a portrait, it's a relationship with the people. Not just I am the photographer and I have no name. I am the photographer, I am your friend, I can be part of your family, and I have a portrait of you in my house. That's the relationship that she used to construct with the people. That's why everyone talks about Julia in Cusco, of her age, of course. And that's why the same thing happened with her father. No, everyone in the 80s or 90s, 19 years old has a picture of Martin. It's a different kind of relationship when you know the photographer and establish, I think. And now that I use the portraits of Julia in my presentations, it's curious because Julia didn't want to be public, didn't want to be in the scene. She likes to be behind the cameras. No, she was very, I don't know if shy, but she wants her father work to bright, not hers. And with the work on the archive. And now we are like taking the photos that were in the box in the house of my grandmother, on the other family album, and showing her, revalue her through her self-portraits or the portrait of we found about her.
I won't talk for long. Is that working? Oh, yeah. Oh, no, but obviously being in the portrait gallery, I'm highly biased. Are there any other photographs? I don't know. But we did sneak in some still life, but I think Yvonne throws herself into all her photographs. But there's a really great self-portrait that we came upon, and she's propped her sort of one-shot camera, which is another very clever contraption that exposes all three plates at once that she took aboard the Queen Mary. She went out and about with this. But it's propped on Herbert Reed's Art Now, which was like his book on modern art, published in 1933. So she's clearly saying, I'm an artist with a camera, and it was used in, I think, Tatler to sort of publicise her autobiography that she wrote in 1940. So it was a bit of self-promotion there.
Thank you. Let's throw it out to the audience as we don't have a lot of time. One over there. And next.
Oh. Do you mind? Yeah. Thank you very much.
Click on research.
Thank you so much.
You've done it.
That really helps me a lot. Thank you so much for all the three presentations. I wanted to ask all three of you. We have these women telling their stories through their photography, and we are retelling their stories through their reinventing somehow the narratives with which we narrate them through their works, okay? And especially with your grandmother, this is a very special situation of autoethnography, I think, and I'm just wondering where are you the researcher and where are you the granddaughter? And this goes for also the other two women. Where are you the researcher and the curator, and where are you yourselves? And where is the power in retelling the story as yourself? How can we claim to tell the story, to have the right to say the story as the granddaughter also, and as the person that you are? And especially, behind the British portrait, how can you do that in the British Portrait Gallery? I guess, Thank you.
Do you want to go first? Or you go. Okay.
Well, that's a question I do with myself when I was 20 years old. When I finished the university, so I have to do the bachelor thesis. I present the thesis to research about my great-grandfather and Julia. They didn't let me to do the research because they told me that research is only made using an objective point of view. You can't talk about yourself. So, 10 years later, I heard about the subjective and narrative approach of research, and they told me, "Oh, you can write about yourself. You can make an autobiography. You can use social tools to talk about your personal history and convert these ideas in a valid research for the academia." And I think now I feel more comfortable at what I am doing now, and I always present myself like, well, I am part of this family, but I am also a photographer. I have personal projects too. Right now I can do that because all my time is consumed by working in the real world and make this project because it's self-sustainable. But I always like. It's a lot of work, but I feel happy with make different things just to maintain the equilibrium of this. Yes.
And thank you very much for your question. I think that this is a very stimulating question. In 2005, when I started my PhD, the argument was the relationship between women and photography from the last decades of the 19th century, the first decade to the 20th century. And for me, it was not so clear that this topic will soon become my field of studies. And so my answer to your question is that step by step, my experience as a woman and my awareness as a woman and as a scholar went in parallel. And so there is no difference between my being a woman, my being a scholar, and my being a researcher. I think that my point of view, my perspective is inside my work. And I think that this is something which is very precious, and we must be very proud to defend this idea.
I was thinking that the National Portrait Gallery is quite a weird institution, that it has puts the person who's in the image kind of first. It's like a sitter-first hierarchy, so we have quite a biographical approach. So actually I did end up, I was sort of in love with Yvonne, probably. You do sort of fall... completely, you get besotted and obsessed. And that's a very good point. But I guess just going back to the archive, and it's, when you put on an exhibition, it's a hugely collaborative thing. So that's work, derived from a great number of people. It's a very good question, one that I'm learning right now with Val, because we're co-supervising a PhD, and it's very much about how much do you put yourself into a research project and how much can you help it, really. I don't really know the answer, but I know that I lived and breathed it, and I think that's sort of what brings it alive, maybe.
It's not a question. I want to say that I really admire your enthusiasm and the story of Madame Yvonne and the story from Cusco and about Wanda and her sister. It was really marvelous part of our conference. I don't know how Wojtek and other gentleman feels among those women, 2 men. I really admire the work of Wojtek. We know each other from ages. But anyway, thank you for the documentation of the conference. But really, what I wanted to say, that I admire your work and contribution, and it's really, really interesting. It wasn't a question, but sorry for that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your presentation. I will be very, very brief. I have 2 questions, one for Federica and the other one for Claudia, completely out of curiosity, to be frank. And for Federica, when I visited your exhibition in Trieste, actually, like to share a memory, I realized that having lived in Trieste since 2013, I passed by the studio and the building many times, because it's really in the city center. And I also visited a house when I was trying to buy a house in Trieste in the same building, but no labels, no no information on the building whatsoever. I discovered that was the building thanks to your exhibition. So I was curious to know if in the preparation of the exhibition you have also, I think so much in this sense, which connections with the city of Trieste also in order to construct the memory of the studio as an heritage for the city too. And for Claudia, I'm very curious to know if if Julia left some indication of piece of advice about how to manage her archive.
Thank you for the question, Linda. I try to answer. First of all, the exhibition and so the research was done by me and by another curator, a man who lived and who is very close to Triestine culture and ambient. And so the beginning was not so easy because the Alinari decided that the curator for the sisters part was me, and Trieste wanted Antonio Giusa, as the curator of the history of the grandfather Giuseppe and Carlo. So the beginning was not so simple, not only because we had to divide something that was a unique history, familiar history of photographer, but also from two very different perspectives, because for Alinari, my research, my approach was clear, so an idea from gender and feminist perspective, and to mix these two gazes and two approaches was not simple, and also entering in feeling and in relationship with Trieste, that is a very important and amazing city, but in some way a city in the liminal part of Italy, full of connection, heritage, mix, intercultural influences, was slowly, month after month, and also nowadays, after a lot of months after the closing of the exhibition, Triestine collectors, but not during my research there, but now they write to me. I have some pictures of the Wulz I'd like to show you. Okay, this is one part of the answer. The other is that in the Alinari archive they collected the diaries of Marion, interview with Marta Kobetz, who was the last friend of Marion, because Marion was the archivist, the last archivist of the history of Wulz family. And you know probably that Marion died very, very poor, and this is another ghost in Triestine history, because Trieste didn't purchase and helped in any way the Wulz treasure, and this is why they felt towards the history of Alinari a very difficult feelings, and so we tried to reconstruct and to re-narrate their history through the documents, because the Alinari preserved all the document of the archive, the daily document of the archive, and so the structure, the daily life, the commercial assignment, and so on. This is. Thank you.
Two things. First, I think that preservation process from an intuitive and experimental perspective has been passed away since Martin to my generation, you know. I remember when I was a little girl, Julia bring the glass plates of Martin with so much, like a treasure, like a very, very little treasure. And they told me that, he always told me, my mother and my grandmother told me that was our treasure, and we have to take care of them. We don't know how, we don't have the tools, the academic tools, but we take care of that treasure. Julia left instructions to take care of the Martin Chambi's archive, but her archive has a very, very complex information about what year it is, who are in the photo, and my mother was like her daughter because Julia didn't have children and didn't marry. That's an important data about her. And my mother knows all about her archive. He knows who is in the photo, what year could be that paper. My mother knows all about Julia's archive and my great-grandfather archive because my mother lived with Martin Chambi until she was 17 years old. So I think it's family knowledge. I think that's why this project of preservation through the family is important. Once I saw a video that if you want to present an archive, you have to bring tool and knowledge to the family because they have the main information about what's happening in the process.
So thank you all again, and I'm sorry to cut the questions short a bit, but we do have to go. We're going to follow Maria.